Ex-police dog kept barking at a tree, then cops made a shocking discovery. When this retired police dog stumbled upon a suspicious tree, her incessant barking pushed her owner to call the authorities. What the cops found inside the hollow trunk was shocking and unveiled a terrible secret that threatened to destroy the force from the inside. Spud, a retired police dog, had earned her owner's trust with her sharp instincts. Noah, confident in her training, allowed her to do things most dogs wouldn't, like running off-leash in the woods. She would roam freely but always return when called. However, on this particular day, she was more restless than usual. She kept sniffing the air and pausing to listen intently. Suddenly, Spud took off, ignoring Noah's call for the first time since he adopted her. She ran ahead, growling as she went. Noah tried to catch up, but she quickly outpaced him, forcing him to follow the sound of her voice. When he finally caught up, he found her barking at a large, dead tree. Noah couldn't figure out what Spud was barking at. He saw that the tree was hollow at the top, but there was no way to tell if anything was inside. Confident in Spud's training, he knew she had found something, but he had no idea what. Not wanting to involve the police without knowing more, he decided to search for clues himself. He tried to pry a piece of bark away from the tree but couldn't get it off. He looked around for a while and saw a sharp rock. Noah listened for a hollow spot and hit it with the rock. The bark split open and he pulled it away to see what was inside. As he did, something shocking happened. Something fell out of the trunk. It was a hand. Noah jumped back in fear. It was, for sure, time to phone the police. He couldn't believe he had found himself in such a strange situation. He had just adopted a dog to have a companion, but this was completely out of his comfort zone. At first, the police didn't understand what he was saying, but then he explained that he was Spud's new owner and she found something. They decided to send Austin, Spud's old partner, to investigate. When he heard that Spud had found something, he rushed over. He trusted her with his life, knowing that if she indicated something, it was worth checking out. Spud had been his best friend for years, and he still adored her. After a rough ambush that led to her retirement, he was devastated when they gave her up for adoption without even consulting him. Hearing her barking in the forest, Austin called her name, and the moment she heard his voice, Spud rushed to him, ignoring her training. She had missed him just as much. She jumped up and licked him. Then she sniffed his side where he had been injured. It was like she was checking his wounds to make sure he was all healed. Noah got closer to explain what they had found, but also to find out why this doll was so excited to see the stranger. The bond between them was clear, and when he realized that this was Spud's handler, he took a respectful step back. Austin focused on the task, approached the tree, and was shocked by what he saw. They called in more officers to secure the area and open the tree without disturbing evidence. Noah tried to leave, but Spud, accustomed to staying at crime scenes, wouldn't budge. Watching as the forensic team pried open the tree, Noah saw a series of shocking objects emerge. When they revealed a name tag, it gleamed in the sunlight, belonging to someone named Harold. But what was even more surprising was the body dressed in a blood-soaked police uniform. As they examined the body, something didn't add up, and the forensic team confirmed it. This was a doll dressed in a uniform, but the uniform was real, and the blood on it did belong to a human. Why was an officer's uniform on a doll in a tree, and why was it bloody? This was a mystery that Austin was determined to solve, but to do so, he would need some help. And there was no one who could help more than his old partner. He asked Noah's permission to have Spud help with the investigation, and the man was just relieved that it would free him up from sticking around. Clearly, the dog wanted to help since she refused to leave with him. Noah wasn't going to stop her. Austin let her smell the clothing through an evidence bag, and then she started tracking. She was in her element. It was like she had never been away from the job. She tracked a path through the forest, and Austin was awed by her incredible nose. He had worked with many police dogs, but Spud was simply on another level. After walking for 10 minutes, Spud stopped in a clearing where the scent originated. Austin noticed tire tracks in the dirt, suggesting the person who dumped the doll likely used a vehicle. This explained why Spud could track the scent only up to that point. They decided to mold the tire tracks and compare them to vehicles in their investigation, but first, they needed more evidence. Back at the police station, everyone was excited to see Spud again, as she had become a legend in the department. She settled next to Austin's table, and he began the search for an officer named Harold. There was only one Harold in the force in the last year, and he was no longer a police officer. This Harold was fired a few months earlier for tampering with evidence. He had been found photographing confidential paperwork and had been fired on the spot. It was strange that they didn't even have an inquiry into his actions. Normally, officers would have a chance to defend themselves, but this situation was different. As Austin continued his search, preliminary results came in. The blood found at the scene matched Officer Harold's blood type, leaving Austin confused. Why had they found a doll with his blood but not Harold himself? The tire tracks raised more questions. They matched Harold's personal car. It was time to visit Harold's home, but when they arrived, the house appeared abandoned. Mail piled up on the porch, but nothing seemed out of place. A neighbor informed them that Harold had been gone for weeks, possibly months, leaving one day and never returning. They just thought he was on holiday, but normally he would arrange for someone to pick up his mail. But then again, Harold had been acting strangely ever since he was fired. He had put up extra security in his home and wasn't as open and friendly as he always was. She didn't know what he had done, but it changed him. When asked what Harold had been wearing when he left, the neighbor's answer was even stranger. Harold had been in his police uniform despite being fired. Was this the same bloody uniform found in the lab? Austin trusted Spud's instincts, but she didn't pick up any signs of trouble. If Harold had been hiding or injured in the house, she would have sensed it. With no indication of anything wrong, they returned to the office to dig deeper. The captain was waiting for them when they arrived. He looked at Spud with disdain, wondering how she had returned, then told Austin he needed to back off from Harold's case. Another officer would take over due to a potential conflict of interest. Austin, still resentful of the captain for arranging Spud's adoption behind his back, wasn't keen to back down. He was determined to uncover the truth about Harold's disappearance. Another officer might not take it seriously because it was only a doll, but something told Austin that there was more to this story. He wasn't going to let it go. So despite promising the captain he would back off, Austin kept digging. And that's when he found what he was looking for. Harold's grandfather had a cabin in the woods. It was the perfect place to hide, so Austin called Spud, and they went searching. What they found shocked them. The cabin door was open, and Harold emerged from the woods, looking bruised and swollen. He tried to run, but Spud pinned him down. After a few tense moments, he realized they meant him no harm. Reluctantly, he explained the full story. Harold had been fired for taking pictures of documents that exposed a dark secret. The captain had been taking bribes from a powerful businessman in exchange for overlooking his illegal activities. Harold was caught photographing the evidence, which led to his firing. Since then, he had tried to expose those secrets. He had been wearing his uniform that day to go to a meeting with the chief of police, but he was ambushed on the way. A lady stood with a flat tire on the side of the road, and when he stopped to help her, 3 men came out of the woods. They jumped him and told him their boss didn't like his snooping. Harold managed to escape with his life, but his clothes were bloody and fear weighed heavily on him. To buy time, he dressed a CPR dummy in his uniform and threw it in the hollow tree, hoping they'd find it. With no one to trust, he went into hiding. Austin assured him he could trust them, but then the captain emerged from the bushes, gun drawn. He coldly explained that exposing him would ruin everything he had worked for, and he couldn't allow that to happen. He always thought it would be Austin and Spud who would stumble on his secret, and that's why he broke them up as soon as he could. Now he would have to find a more permanent solution to keep his secret safe. He lifted his arms to shoot, but suddenly, Spud jumped him and took him down. As soon as he was down, Austin was there to arrest the captain. Harold was reinstated, and Austin was promoted to captain. Together, they built a strong case against the businessman, bringing down his empire. The man would spend many years in jail, but as time passed, another farewell was approaching. Noah came down to the police station to pick up his dog. Spud sat beside Austin, and each time Noah called her, she moaned and avoided eye contact. It was tough for such an obedient dog to ignore a command, but she clearly didn't want to leave. Everyone, including Noah, could see that Spud still belonged to Austin. It hurt Noah's heart to see her reluctance, but he couldn't deny the strong bond between the dog and the police officer. Noah knew he had every right to take Spud, but he couldn't separate her from Austin. They belonged together. If it hadn't been for the interference of a terrible person, Austin would have adopted her in the first place. So Noah gave his blessing for them to stay together as long as he got updates and could take Spud for walks now and then. With Austin as captain, they wouldn't face as many dangerous situations, but together they could handle anything. What an incredible story! If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave a comment below. See you in the next video.